Storytime again, and I have a story for you today that's by the same author that wrote The Gruffalo. That's Julia Donaldson. So I really love some of her books, and this is another one of my favourite ones of hers, and it's called The Smartest Giant in Town. Look at all the animals looking up at how tall he is. So I wonder what makes him the smartest giant in town. Let's find out. This is George. George was a giant, the scruffiest giant in town. He always wore the same pair of old brown sandals and the same old patched up gown. I wish I wasn't the scruffiest giant in town, he said sadly. But one day, George noticed a new shop. It was full of smart clothes. So he bought a smart shirt, a smart pair of trousers, a smart belt, a smart stripy tie, some smart socks with diamonds up the sides, and a pair of smart shiny shoes. Now I'm the smartest giant in town, he said proudly. So it was his lovely clothes that made him the smartest giant. George left his old clothes behind in the shop, and he was about to go home when he heard a sound. On the pavement stood a giraffe who was sniffling sadly. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my neck," said the giraffe. "It's so very long and so very cold. I wish I had a long warm scarf." "Oh, poor giraffe." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his stripy tie. "It didn't match my socks anyway," he said, and he wound it round and round and round and round the giraffe's neck. It made a wonderful scarf. "Thank you," said the giraffe. As George strode towards home, he sang to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, but look me up and down. I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a river. On a boat stood a goat who was bleating loudly. There he is. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my sail," said the goat. "It blew away in a storm. I wish I had a strong new sail for my boat." Look. Oh, poor goat. What's he going to do for a sail? Any ideas? Oh, George has an idea. "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his new white shirt. "It kept coming untucked anyway," he said, as he tied it to the mast for the goat's boat. "It made a magnificent sail." "Thank you," said the goat. George strode on, singing to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. But look me up and down. I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a tiny, ruined house. Beside the house stood a white mouse with lots of baby mice, and they were all squeaking. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's our house," squeaked the mother mouse. "It burned down, and now we have nowhere to live. I wish we had a nice new house. Look, it's all burnt. Aww, poor mice." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off one of his shiny shoes. "It was giving me blisters anyway," he said. As the mouse and her babies scrambled inside, the shoe made a perfect home for them. "Thank you," they squeaked. George had to hop along the road now, but he didn't mind. As he hopped, he sang to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. And my shoe is a house for a little white mouse. But look me up and down. I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a campsite. Beside a tent stood a fox who was crying. There's Fox there. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my sleeping bag," said the fox. "I dropped it in a puddle. I wish I had a warm, dry sleeping bag." Do you think George's got another idea? Shall we find out? "Cheer up," said George. And he took off one of his socks. "It was tickling my toes anyway," he said. As the fox snuggled into it, it made a very fine sleeping bag. "Thank you," said the fox. There he is. George hopped on, singing to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, my shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat, my shoe is a house for a little white mice, one of my socks is a bed for a fox, but lick me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a big, squelchy bog. Do you see it? Down at the bottom. Ugh. Beside the bog stood a dog who was howling. "What's the matter?" said George. "It's this bog," said the dog. "I need to get across, but I keep getting stuck in the mud. I wish there was a safe, dry path." Any ideas what George is going to do now? George does. "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his smart new belt. "It was squashing my tummy anyway," he said, as he laid it down over the bog. "It made an excellent path." "Thank you," said the dog. The wind started to blow, but George didn't mind. He hopped on, singing to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, my shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat, my shoe is a house for a little white mice, one of my socks is a bed for a fox." My belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog, but my trousers are falling down. I'm the coldest giant in town. Suddenly, George felt very sad and shivery. Not at all smart. He stood on one foot and thought, "I have to go back to the shops and buy some more clothes," he decided. He turned around and hopped all the way back to the shop. Aww. Oh no. But when he got there, it was closed. Look. See him sitting outside? He looks so sad. "Oh no," said George, and he sank down onto the doorstep with a tear running down his nose. He felt as sad as all the animals he'd met on his way home. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a bag with something familiar poking out of the top. George took a closer look. See the bag? Can you see anything? "My gown!" he yelled. My dear old gown and sandals. George put them on. They felt wonderful. "I'm the cosiest giant in town," he cried, and he danced back home along the road. Oh, how lovely. Got all his clothes back. He's feeling happy again. What's this? Outside his front door stood all the animals he'd helped, and they were carrying an enormous present. "Come on, George, open it." George untied the ribbon, and inside was a beautiful gold paper crown and a card. "Look inside the card, George," said the animals. George put the crown on his head, and he opened the card. There's the crown, and here is the letter, the card. Inside it said, "Your tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. Your shirt is on a boat as a sail for a goat. Your shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of your socks is a bed for a fox. Your belt helped a dog who was crossing the bog. So here is a very fine crown to go with the sandals and gown of the kindest giant in town." Wasn't that lovely? So he started off as the scruffiest giant, then he became the smartest giant, and then right at the very end of the story, he became the kindest giant with his crown. How lovely. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's story, and I'll see you next time. Bye!